Folks, we're back, and I am honored today to have Kevin Middleton, who is the judge for the Divine Universal Law Court, and Momma Sophia, who is a clan mother for many tribes, many nations. And, of course, my beloved co-host, Thomas Hughes, and I'm here talking to you from the depths of the Wolf's Den, and this is Dave. And Momma Sophia, I forgot where you were because I forgot to write it down because I ran out of paper.
You're fired. No, that's okay.
Not the first time, my dear, not the first time. But can I have a second chance?
Sure you can. Of course. I don't remember where we were either, but that's okay. There's so much to wake up and realize about ourselves is all I can say. And what we've done, and I read a little chat, how is this financed? Well, we have a producer that is one of our dragon shields, and he has taken us into his world and cared for us while he goes out into that system and continues functioning so that we can get done what we need done. We don't have donations coming in. We don't have funding from government organizations or anything like that. It all comes from Divine Mother. She provides. She takes care of us. She makes sure that our needs are met in abundance as much as it can be. We don't, we're not trying to sell anyone anything. I think the most difficult thing is trying to give back what belongs to someone. They don't typically understand it belongs to them, so they don't want to receive it.
Okay, Momma Sophia, I'd like to thank Revolution Radio for just joining us, and our listenership just went up tremendously. And also, when you go to there, folks, go to Truth Radio, thetruthradio.com, I think it is. And if you want to start a radio site, them's the folks to go to, folks. Now, back to you.
Okay.
Well, can I just say something here for a second?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if we're dealing with trust law, and this individual has asked how the Sunke Temple Trust is funded. Well, a trust has to be funded in order for it to actually exist. I mean, that's kind of common sense, but that's one of the requirements or provisions that is required to have a trust. Now, if we've taken the law, which is the Clan Mother law, and it is our chosen applicable law that governs the trust and the provisions within the trust, and we've labeled basically the system of things as the constructive trustees for the trust, then the trust should be funded. And it should be funded with all the assets of Tiamat Kai Earth and the assets that surround Tiamat Kai Earth, because we have satellites and all sorts of stuff out there. So that just basically clarifies it. All that's really got to happen right now is the enforcement of all of this. And then everybody can start enjoying their undivided beneficial interest to the trust. Until that happens, I guess, the constructive trustees remain in breach of trust, and they just continue to build up a liability. That's the best I can explain it right now. So I thought I'd enlighten you people with that.
The thing is that we're finishing documents which are necessary when you read the trust. There's certain things that the General Executrix needs to do in order to do certain things with the trustees. And that's what's in process, which is getting the PSSDA, which is Private Spiritual Signatory Deed of Appointment, together. For those who know their clan mother information, and it comes in through MD&A form, typically Brian Sykes is my preferred choice because that's the one we used. I'm willing to look at any others, but I still think he should check it. They would come in with their clan mother's certificate tying their life-giving belly cord to the center of the nation's hoop, okay, which is the tree of life. So they're proving their MD&A code, and then they have their inheritance to that code. And then there are those who haven't received that yet. But as clan mother and in divine universal law, life, adoption, and death, those rights are mine. Okay? So to choose life, to choose adoption, or to choose death comes from the clan mother. in that, I have created a document, and it's in the trust, that everyone is considered adopted. They just need to have their source code, which comes from me, which attaches them to their Spendthrift Trust account and their grid card. Now, the unique thing about the grid card, and this is really important when you folks realize that you are assets and beneficiaries to an estate trust, okay? That means the constructive trustees have to take care of you to the pristine quality to protect the very essence of all life. So your life is about to improve 1 billion-fold because they have to protect you and take care of you. That's the way the trust is written. And yes, we have to do a divine light energy exchange as part of our sweat equity into the inheritance because our ancestors did. So we have to do the same thing. We must put forward our divine light. We must share it. We must exchange it. The system in itself is going to wind down. The skeletal structure will remain because the system in itself is not bad. It's who's managing it that is doing bad things. Okay, so we come in and we manage it in divine universal law. We help the constructive trustees do their job by giving them the proper feedback so that they know what we as beneficiaries want. Right? How we want our assets to, like cleaning up our planet. Just that simple act of saying, you know what, to legalize and tax marijuana is the biggest joke in the world. Set her free. You cannot put laws upon nature, and they have. And they've only done it because they use scare tactics, and people are terrified. And I don't blame the folks, I've seen what they can do. And it's not nice, so you put them in their place. Now they are considered, and by the way, all military, police, and anyone in thereof and the like in those positions are protectors of the trust. So they have to protect the assets. So they can't come against you with all of those codes, legislative enactments, and those different little laws that they do to come against a beneficiary because they have no place. There's only one law system on this planet, and it is Divine Mothers. And even they know that. They're just hoping the population doesn't wake up to the fact that they're beneficiaries to a trust that gives them abundance. And now those who've been running around, living in unjust enrichment, taking from you and living in the high on the hog, all of a sudden have to be the workers to the beneficiaries who happen to be what they have created in poverty. They've impoverished us. They've taught us that we don't have the right to good food, that we don't have the right to this, that you don't even have the right to drive unless you have their license. Really? All I require is that you know what you're doing. You're protecting the essence of life in operating a vehicle, So yeah, you might need some training in that area. Everybody does. And some practice. But you don't have to keep paying into a system every year or 2 years for a license that says you have a privilege to travel when that asset, which is the road, you have a right to. So it's just changing, it's flipping it around and it's taking it away from them. And then, how do we fund government, right? Government things, this, that. Well, any project that benefits the beneficiaries has to have workers, right? So why don't we all come together and work together to make sure it happens? As I said before, there's no need for anyone to be unemployed. Instead of working a 40-hour a week, how about working maybe 2.5 days? And then you have the rest of the time off. And then there's someone else who's qualified in the same job you are picking up another 2.5 days or 2 days for that matter, or 3 days. Or someone who's qualified in an area that maybe there aren't enough qualifications in, saying, you know what, I'm going to work for 3 months, regular schedule, and then I want to take the rest of the year off. Well, why can't they? They've put in their time in their divine light energy exchange. It doesn't mean that the rest of the time that they're off, they're not doing other things that cause divine light energy exchange. It just means for that skill that was required, and there's a limited amount of resources available in that knowledge base, they've taken responsibility for that. And they've helped out. We need to spend a lot more time as family. We need to spend a lot more time honoring our planet, cleaning her up, taking care of her, going to ceremony, being a part of a community. We don't need to be robbing Peter to pay Paul to keep up with the Jones with credit cards to pay on credit. What do you need credit for when you are fully funded through an estate that you were given through your mitochondrial DNA, and no one can take that away from you?
Right on.
I'm writing down notes as we're going along because sometimes we just blow by these specific things, I guess you could say, and it might help to explain it to the people a little bit more in detail. And somebody's probably out there going, well, what the hell is a grid card? You mind explaining that a little bit more, Mary Jane?
A grid card is a global recognition identification card. What the grid card gives you, I'll just pull up a document here. It's one card, okay? You don't need to have 50 million different cards that do 50 million different things. You no longer need credit cards because you don't live on credit. You're fully funded. You always have been. So now you're going to start drawing from that inheritance. What it gives you is universal trade exchange rental. So anything that requires energy exchange, currency exchange, what they would call money, there you go. Access into your account. A universal transit verification. Transit instead of driver's license, because lots of people do different ways of travel. There's people that have planes, there's people that have boats, ATVs. It just basically puts on file everything that individual is qualified to operate. So you don't have to have 50 million different organizations. You just have one database that says, okay, well, this person, yeah, they're okay. They can fly a small plane, right? They've got all the information, the training, the qualifications to do that. Because remember, anything we do as a beneficiary has to protect the very essence of all life. So we can't just run around and say, well, I'm going to go fly a plane. If you don't know how to fly a plane, whoever's in that plane besides just you, you're going to kill. And so since you have to protect the very essence of all life that's in your body, right, you can't do that. But you can get training. No one says you can't. Absolutely. You can go to school, you can get the training, you can get the qualifications, and you can get the practice in, and you absolutely can do that. There's no reason why you can't. There's nothing you can't do. Then we have what's called a universal pass-through, which is another term like a type of an identification. It's just a term that was used. Universal identification passport travel documents. This is a higher form of identification. It means that you no longer have to carry a driver's license and a passport and that Social Security card because those things are invalid anyways. They don't exist. The system's gone. Then you have, it's a universal financial asset responsibility card. Understand, when you're driving a vehicle, when you're operating a boat, the title holder is responsible. Title holder are now the constructive trustees. So from your perspective, let's say you have a fender bender and you're driving a vehicle, it's taken care of. Because the owners of the title, who happen to be the constructive trustees, are the ones liable for that damage, even though you may have done it. It still has to be covered, so it's already covered in your card. Takes away all the insurance. Just love it. As far as health card gives you access to every form of true health. Instead of poisoning you with pharmaceuticals and false doctors, sorry, I know there's some really good ones, and trust me, there are some very good physicians that have a place in the medical field, but everyone else is dabbling and playing God with your life. Anyone who's running around giving you pharmaceuticals is causing your death because you don't need those things. Pharmaceuticals are what cause all the other side effects. When I hear a pharmaceutical that might cause cancer, I'm going, why would you even take it for the symptoms that you're having when you could just change your nutrition and heal yourself? I'm speaking from experience, okay? So I know all of that's bullshit and a lie. And that's from my own personal experience. It gives you a universal occupation verification, meaning that if you have a certain level of knowledge, which is an asset, by the way, into the trust, it is written into your card. It's already there. So if we needed a qualified person for a certain area, we would know where to look because it's already verified in a grid card. So if you decided, hey, I'm going to go over to South America because I want to go to South America and hang out, and I'm going to get into this community, and I'm qualified as an engineer to help out over here, and they're building this structure over here. So I'm going to show them my qualifications and see what I can do to assist and help out because that's my divine light energy exchange. So there you go. It's on the grid card. It's already there. Your full education, everything. And education will change because you'll get true education instead of all this other stuff they call education. Library card. Library card allows you, obviously, into all libraries. universal game and hunting verification, what game is allowed to be consumed, because we still have to protect the essence of all life and make sure we're not over-consuming things and causing harm, but also what one is qualified to have as weaponry. Because one of our goals, truthfully, is just to get rid of all violence. Violence is just bunk. It's got to go away. And everything that has to do with violence, it's a mindset that is just so prehistoric and out of here. And the womb kind, I'm telling you, we're tired of it. We no longer want to have violence in this world. We want to have love and compassion. There's no more a need to harm, because every time you harm, you're breaking Divine Mother's laws. And it's not necessary. So eventually, maybe we'll get past weaponry. And then anything thereof and the like. That's what the grid card gives you. And it's just one card. It's a card that, in my opinion, because they have to protect the assets, everybody's running around, oh, they're watching everything we do. Well, they always have. If you actually think that you don't have interdimensional beings standing next to you, you're lost. Because they've always been watching. So RFID chip in the card. Don't touch my body. I don't want you to touch my body. But if you want to keep track of where the assets and the beneficiaries are, I've got no issue personally with that, because you cannot harm me. You have to protect me. And you have to protect the assets. So now all military personnel, police, everyone has to take a change of tune. They're no longer held accountable through the other system in legal. So they have to now come through in this position to protect the very essence of all life and actually listen to you and treat you like you breathe, and that you mean something, and that you are sacred and you are special, and that they can't use pepper spray, and they can't use, what are those frequency guns they use? Tasers, and they can't pull out a weapon. They can't hurt you. They're not allowed to. They can't come at you full of aggression anymore. Now they have to come at you as a peacekeeper, a true peacekeeper, saying, what is the issue and how can I help? I'm responsible for what's taking action here. What can I do? Can I get you into divine mediation with one of the mediators from the Divine Universal Law Court? Because the other thing that the court does is it does not accept judges and lawyers, period. They have no place in the court. The only thing in the court is you and your truth. You'll have a fire council, which consists of clan mothers and spiritual advisors and others that are part of the community, there to listen to you give your truth. If someone accuses you, let's just say, Dave, you and I are going to go at it, okay? And I'm going to accuse you of something. And so I decide that I'm going to go into the court and I'm going to make that documentation and send out that accusation, okay? So all the information comes to you, and then you send in your information, and it goes before the court. Well, what happens is a truth serum test, and there's multiple forms. Doesn't even have to be invasive. And these truth serum tests cause us to give our true spirited heart, based on the event that we're making the accusation of, right? So, as the accuser, I have to take the truth serum first, because in order to prove my order to show cause against you, I've got to prove, in fact, I have a valid claim, which requires my true spirited heart to be given. Now, let's just say I have a valid claim. And so, I've done the truth serum test, and I've proven that you have caused harm upon me. Now it is up to you to prove with your true spirited heart that you truly did not intend to cause that harm, that you really didn't mean it. Okay, so
Momma
here comes
Sophia,
your truth.
can I ask you to hold it for a minute? I want to start another recording.
It's done. It's over. There's no need for prison.
I would hope so.
Well, no, but that's what divine universal law brings. That's the whole purpose behind it. Because the way they have the courts set up now is it's a perpetual thing to long and draw out for the future. This whole thing is just long enough to get the bonds cashed through, right? They only keep you until the bond is to a certain level to flip over, and then they let you go again. There's no need for any of that. Why, when you haven't done anything wrong, in divine universal law, there has to be true damage. There has to be a true victim, or there is no crime. Okay?
That's the absolute truth on that statement.
So this is divine universal law. Unless there's a true victim or there's actual true damage, there is no true crime. Everything else is to feed their system. Everything else is to keep that perpetual paperwork flowing so that they can continue. Now, if you go into the TRVs, where we've shown how we've served all these different individuals and organizations, you'll see that there's Everybody, I mean, it's at the highest level. Everyone that could have possibly received this information has already received it. Now, are they acting? I would say yes, but they're still waiting for the final pieces from us. Are they protecting? Absolutely. When you started to see the U.S. backpedal and pull itself out, and all of a sudden, you hardly see anything, if at all, about cannibalism on any of the medias, because it's a breach of trust to do so. They cannot speak about taxing her. They cannot speak about legalizing her, because she is to be set free. She is the abundant gift that everyone needs to put their sweat equity into so that we can get her growing again, get our planet back to the rejuvenated process, get the nutrients back into the soil, get the energy back into our planet, clean the air, clean the water, clean the soil. It is one plant, and it can do all of that and so much more. You know, and you know, the hard part is the propaganda machines. And I had already sent out to Normal, I don't know if anyone knows who they are, I'm sure most people do. They're an organization who claims to promote the taxation and legalization of marijuana, cannabis. And then High Times magazine. They actually, when they found out about me being the mother of THC, had a phone call with me. And, you know, I wasn't into big propaganda stuff, so it didn't go very far, because to me it was more like, okay, well, this means more than just, oh, that's neat, you know. This is something going on in my world that's causing me to propel forward in a whole light of energy in a different direction than I ever thought I would go in. So I had to learn about the cannabis plant. I had to learn about everything I could to understand what she meant to me. And she's everything. And now we find that there are those who just want to keep the propaganda going. The propaganda about taxation, legalization, the political stuff. It's all over. It's all said. It's all done. All we're doing now is finishing the final pieces and finally releasing. And the reason we didn't release a lot of information in the beginning to folks is because you need to have a certain level of things done before you start letting them know. Otherwise, no offense, they A, either get in your way, or B, don't understand what you're talking about and you lose them. So you just get it done and then you present it. And even then you struggle trying to get them to understand it, but at least for the most part it's done.
Well, what's always amazed me is since the early 90s when I figured it out for myself, or remembered, I should say, that people can't see the difference between legal and illegal drugs. Because now the legal drugs that they sell you at the pharmacy are actually doing more damage to you than illegal drugs ever have. And the reason it's labeled legal or illegal is because illegal drugs I can't control the market on and make money off of. That's why it's illegal.
But then you have to go back to the ancients, and you have to ask, when did ever a medicine become a drug? Because here's the difference between the pharmaceutical industry and true medicine. True medicine cures and heals. Pharmaceuticals do not cure and they do not heal. They treat symptoms and they cause more problems. Right. So, when you ask an ancient, what was medicine? They'd go out and pick a root up, a berry, a leaf, a piece of bark. Those are all medicines, right? A flower. Those are all medicines.
Yes, and the FDA has already ruled that there's a certain type of thing. It's a black cherry and walnuts are to be considered drugs.
Well, but see, you have to understand again, most of these government organizations are going to disappear, and they're going to be dissolved in the winding down process, okay? And what's going to rise out of that is true knowledge, because there's not going to be any lobby group attached to something because they want to make it go this way for their benefit. You have to understand that these folks no longer have a right to unjustly enrich themselves. And what they're using, all these legislative enactments, is to unjustly enrich themselves based on the fact that they think you don't know you have an asset based to a trust. You're an asset and a beneficiary. So who has the right to make laws based on that? None of them. I mean, this is so new. You have to understand that we, just a little over a month, have been giving the trust out. So it's very new to the system, and the system is kind of still in shock. And they're making transformations because they're also running around going, well, wait a minute. Okay, we had this all figured out. There was a God. It was a man. And now all of a sudden there's a woman who comes and gives us all this information that proves our man-God's wrong. Oops. Well, how'd that happen? Oh, gosh. Oh, no. She figured out that the rib that they took out was really for Adam to be created and not Eve. Oh, shit. tore it all the way down. All the way down. Their whole thing is wiped completely out. The fact that they still treat women as a third-class citizen when she is their frickin' life giver is an absolute shame and literally shows you how intelligent they are. Because they're supposed to be the most intelligent. Remember, they run the world.
Well, we all know that they're about as smart as a bag of hammers.
Well,
I was thinking something a little more descriptive, but I'll let that go, Thomas.
Either that or they're heartless. That's all I can say is heartless. They literally don't understand life. They're a waste of the energy. We've already done the ceremony that has, and this was the hardest part for me, accepting the resignation of a living essence. Because to me, why wouldn't you want to be in this form? I know that this form is being damaged and it's harmed and it can be healed. Trust me. I went through it myself personally. I know. And I'm willing to work with anyone who needs that information because I know that if you don't accept your temple, you can't accept your inheritance. And that's the key. But the fact that they continue to control you so you don't understand that you have this beautiful temple, that you are prime real estate, and that you actually can elevate yourself in a frequency that allows you to travel interdimensionally and intergalactically just through a Merkaba. Okay? In this form. You don't have to leave your body. You can take it with you. Because when you master the skills, you'll be able to transcend through anything. You are one of Divine Mother's most amazing gifts in this physical form. The fact that we die is a crime. The fact that we're willing to die is a shame. Because we don't understand that we were meant to live always. Any scientist can tell you that they don't understand why our body dies because it's designed to live always. It has a little battery called mitochondrial DNA. That mitochondrial DNA, when properly nourished, wants to live always and stays lit and keeps everything together. Well, if you aren't nourishing the body, the mitochondrial DNA is going to break down and then everything's going to go with it. And that is what has happened. Because we are strip-mined. They're raping our planet, and they're doing to us. It's no different. It's just practice, that's all. Anyone who could say, oh, and I come from Red Nations, so no disrespect from Red Nations. My father's Red Nations. My mother's mitochondrial DNA is Isis Genesis, original of the planet. Okay, I'm an original species of this planet. My father comes through Divine Blood Covenants. He comes through Red Nations. Okay? But we don't understand how we lost ourselves. The ancient ones of the Red Nations were the last to keep the knowledge. And it got lost again. Okay? Is it underground? I don't know. I've been to several ceremonies and I've spoke to many, and there's wounded hearts, and they're all blaming the Europeans and the white people. They don't even know who their true enemy really is. They have no idea. They're so busy pointing fingers, there's three pointing back at them, and I have to tell us all, we are our own worst enemy. Because we have not yet taken responsibility for the part we play in life, and we're allowing trustees to do things to us because we don't understand the position we have as a beneficiary asset to a trust. And we keep filling out their form work.
Plain and simple.
Well, we're here to try and simplify and take back our planet. I truthfully would like to see Tiamat vibrate at the frequency. You know what's going on down in the South Pole. She's trying to birth her moon. That's why they're down there. She lost her moon, and it takes a long time for a planet that's gone through what this planet has gone through to create her moon. And her moon is being created down there in the South Pole. And what needs to happen is the women need to get back with it, and we need to start doing the sacred creation moon blood ceremonies. We need to be honoring that creation moon blood back to the Cannibalism, back to Tiamat. And in ceremony, protected by our divine dragon shields, to help her finish so that she has the frequency needed to birth her moon. Because the moon we have happens to be a moon that is a spaceport. And it's okay that it's there. I've got no issue with it. It was the only reason Tiamat could roll back into physical form again after having parts of her chunked away. Because she needed something to hold her stable so she could ebb and flow again and life could come back. They created it from the Genesis knowledge of the ancients. It's all cool. I'm glad they did it. Now we're going to have 2 moons. Cool. I don't see that being a problem, but I know our planet's waiting to birth hers, and she's waiting for us to get off, our own
Get off our dead ass onto our dying feet.
Something.
One thing I've noticed with them is that they haven't learned that the more they try to control life, the more it breaks free.
Well, sure.
And it finds ways to break free. So there's no control. They mastered the energy flow thing because positive flows to negative, and so they're negative all the time, or they do negative things all the time, knowing that the masses out there will try and be positive about things all the time, not realizing that they're giving all their energy back to the ones who are being so negative, because just like a battery in a car, it has a negative and positive pole, and that's the way energy works. But, they just don't understand. You can't put it in a box.
Well,
you can't control it.
We don't need to. We need to be part of it. We need to be in the ebb and flow of creation is what we need to be. That's where we need to come back to. That's what the whole purpose behind Divine Mother revealing the truth and showing us how to get back. It was like the most mind-boggling journey was, okay, well, I'm not into legalese. I understand divine universal law very well. I can understand a little bit about what the system's doing as far as how they're doing stuff, and then Kevin come along. And between his knowledge in their system and my knowledge in Divine Mother, we were able to meld together what needed to happen. And it was just remarkable because now we see the exchange coming back and forth, and we know from our own... it's so funny because we're sitting in the front row seats, right? And we're watching what's happening, and the rest of the world is still walking around dumbfounded. And we're going, well, how do we present this to folks? Can they understand that they're actually from a multiple process of genesises and that there are original species to this planet, and we have covenants with species that are not from this planet but are from other territories, and that every time you see something happening in like the sky where they say it's a UFO, that's a Merkabah, that's someone who's already ascended that's traveling back and forth. They already know. They can't tell us because we have to come from the inside out. We have to learn from the inside out. It's not on the outside, it's on the inside of us. And that's what we have to learn. But how do we learn it when we're so oppressed? How do we get our power back? How do we even understand that we have anything other than what they tell us we have? And this is what Divine Mother's presented to them. Here's how you are, who you are. Here's the ancient stories. I know it really freaked them out because when I spoke about in the manuscript, I go all the way back to Star Sun's creation. Okay? Nothing on this planet goes that far back. Nothing in spiritual, nothing. They don't go back to the actual physical creation of Star Sun and how Divine Mother created in divine light and what that divine light meant, and that the Luciferian seed, and most people don't understand what Luciferian seed is, but the Luciferian seed is our Divine Mother's spirit. It's the very essence of all life. It's that whole spark that gives us what we need to be created with. It means light, not Satan, not the devil. There's no such thing. Everyone has that in their own heart, their own Satan and their own devil, because they all lie and deceive themselves.
While you're on that topic, Mary Jane, why don't you explain to everybody the true meaning of Lucifer so that this just gets away from creating maybe a controversial action that could quite possibly be used against you in the future?
Well, they can't use it against me. If they want to come into divine universal law, let's go. Truth, serum, cats, I'm ready.
I know. I understand the way the court procedure that we've developed works and everything, but a lot of people, once they hear, oh, Lucifer, it's over their head, and they just, their ego flares up and they don't see past what the truth could possibly be. So if you could shed some light on that subject, then go for it.
Well, the Luciferian seed is our Divine Mother Spirit, as I've already explained. Okay? Lucifer comes from Latin. Latin wasn't even a language at the time that Hebrew was a language. In the Hebrew text of the spiritual scripts, there's not one reference to the devil, not one reference to Satan, and not one reference to Lucifer. So for anyone who goes all the way back to the ancient text of the Hebrew scriptures, no such thing in their scriptures, okay? Only recently was Lucifer attached to anyone. It's always meant like the day star or the night star, the Venus, okay? Venus is woman, Luciferian. And how that happened was in the creation process of our solar system. When the planets and the moons and the sun were looking at being given an additional injection, you might say, of the Luciferian seed after they went through their creation process in the manuscript, I'm just going to paraphrase real simple. Divine Mother asked which planet would receive the very essence of all life as a gift. And they went into different patterns, and each time they went into a different pattern, Star Sun asked them, how does this feel to you? And each planet, each moon gave its expression. When they came into a pattern known as the Bethlehem, Star of Bethlehem, or the Star of David, they were asked how this position felt to them, and they knew it was balance, the masculine and the feminine. And they said this is to be retained for the time when whatever planet is chosen to receive the Luciferian seed is in creation, will come together to balance. So they went about their way, and they continued, and they continued. And as they continued, Venus had always done something very unique. It would pass between the sun and earth. And it would take a cycle, a period of time to do that. And when it did that, it created a pentagram, okay, which was the sign of woman. So as Venus did this, and this is after finding out that they're going to be given the gift to regenerate a new planet, in the planet, new life, more life, Venus came to her completion, and Tiamat sent out the most amazing vibration, and they all knew she was the one. So when Divine Mother was bringing forth the Luciferian seed, traveled through many galaxies, through the Pleiades galaxies, through many master stargates, and was coming into the stargate of Sagittarius A to be delivered to Tiamat in the Sagittarius dwarf galaxy when they were lined up at 0 degrees. Okay, and I have on the website in the manuscript, there's a section that shows you a whole pattern. That seed came through, and when it touched the watery veil of Tiamat, Father Sky was born. Tiamat's fire ether spirit, first thing she did was create her divine dragon shield. She knew she needed a protector for what she was going to create. And when that Luciferian seed went through the water, it started creating living water. And then when it hit the mantle of Tiamat and penetrated through her cores, it started her creation mood blood flow, which is lava. Okay? And under the water, the lava continued to flow and create rocks, ancestors, the very first ancient ancestors with the very first beginnings of memory. Obsidian is a water rock, and in the obsidian is early stages of life form. You can see it in snowflake obsidian as it's evolving into cellular structures. Okay? This is what the Luciferian seed did. When the tree of life, and I'm just cutting through the pieces, when the tree of life was called forth from the sacred womb of Tiamat, and she came up into the incubation phase of the womb to be gently nourished by the sun's rays into the soil and the water, and she birthed through, that was the Luciferian tree of life, the tree of light. And when she grew and she blossomed into the Delta 9 frequency, the flowers that would come out, the buds of the Cannabosum, she sent out the frequency that called forth all of the flora of Tiamat, from the recesses of her cellular memory up into the forms of the planet. And all the plants, everything, every type of plant life you could imagine was coming through the soil. And when the tree of life came into that moment in time for her to finally covenant with Tiamat and create Isis, they birthed the first Isis, Genesis, who is the original Luciferian Elohim, the original carbon 7 of this planet. They have done many things, the controllers, to turn us away from the truth by slandering and harming and murdering and causing witch hunts on the women, especially those who carry the Luciferian seed, who are the arch-negative beings. They have done this to the tree of life to the point where every living being becomes afraid of that which is a plant that can cure you. And then they took the very sacred name of the Luciferian seed, which we translated into Lucifer from Latin, because it's actually quite beautiful, the vibration, Lucifer. I love the way that it translates. And they slandered it and caused it to be part of the devil, the Satan, of which let's make sure you don't hold accountability by teaching you that somehow there's this being on the outside called Satan and the devil that causes you to do all these wicked things, when in fact it is your own heart that does it. Because you yourself are lying and deceiving to yourself because you do not know who you are, you do not know how you started, you do not know where you are. And you live in slavery under a system that is usurping your inheritance from the very essence of all life. That's who Lucifer is. Not a devil, not a Satan. Never has been, never will be. Anyone wants to take me into divine universal law, happy to go there. So happy to give you the truth of my heart. That's the whole reason I'm here.
Well, you have an ally in me all the way there, Momma Sophia.
Thank you.
How about if you could explain maybe a little bit more about the sisterhood covenant? I mean, that's pretty much got to come together before any of this can actually go anywhere. There's a lot of people probably questioning the enforcement of we're trying to present here, and I just wanted to say that, you know, the women are obviously the most important thing, otherwise the male kind or female kind would not be here on the planet. And thanks to the women we are, because it's a pleasure just being alive and being able to do these important tasks that Mother or Divine Mother wills upon us. So if you could explain a little bit more about the sisterhood covenant and what needs to happen and what the women can do to prepare to become part of this type of enforcement, then I'm sure that will give people a little bit more faith and understanding what we're doing.
Okay, well, the first thing that everyone needs to do, whether you're a female kind or a womb kind, is look yourself in the mirror and say to yourself, while you're looking in your eyes, I love my mother. And mean it. That's the first thing that needs to happen. Because until you bond with the womb kind inside you, you cannot stand and do anything for her.
I did that about 10 years ago, and there was such a feeling of relief and love came to me that I almost broke into tears in my bathroom.
That's what you're supposed to do, because when you do that, you know you love your mother.
Without my mother, I wouldn't be here. It's that simple.
That's right. That is right. And when you love your mother, you love the original mother that gave us all life. Okay? She literally brought the consciousness to our existence. Divine light, divine love, intent, and thought, the mind, okay? She brought that to us. For womb kind, we've been deeply damaged. From all that I can tell, it is the female kind that came between us. We had a sisterhood covenant that protected the very essence of all life. It is the Eye of Isis Treaty. When my planet was stolen, and the very essence of all life taken and scattered throughout the universe onto other planets that were in the covenanted ceremony, the Archer ceremony, all of those beings came together and said they could stay there. That they didn't have to leave because they didn't have a home anymore. This planet was in total devastation and nothing could come home. Okay? That was the beginning of the Sisterhood Covenant, because they knew that everything in life had a right to live. And that death is not a decision that we ever choose easily. Because as life givers, it grows within us. It is not something that we just do. Can we be the ultimate warrior? Can we take a life? Oh, of course we can. When you see a woman do 51-50, she's in the fight for her survival. And she's 10 times stronger than any man. Okay? But for the sisters, our female kind came between us, which should have never happened, but it did. And now we are so oppressed that we don't even know who we are, that we can't even be a true sister to another woman because we're so quickly backstabbing her in front of everybody else that we can have one up on her. right? We can't let her be better than us. Oh, somehow there's got to be this division. Well, we have to stop those things. And we have to look at each other and realize that we are each other.
Momma Sophia, I just want to say that you exemplify and are such a marvelous example of the whole reason I have Wolf Spirit Radio.
Thank you.
And I'm sitting here crying with you because I understand exactly what you're saying.
Well, we all need to start understanding it because we are in a very, very exciting time. And everything happens in divine time. I never regret a moment. I let Divine Mother guide it, even if it takes longer and it seems like a struggle and it's 10 times harder uphill. And it's even harder going downhill because I got to put the brakes on so I don't smack into the bottom. I just know that it's always our Divine Mother. She's always there giving us that understanding. And as sisters, and I have 2 sisters, and my mother's still with us, and my nieces, and I just have a brand new great niece that was just born the other day, which is just awesome, because they carry the mitochondrial DNA of 239, okay? 239 is the change code I have in my mitochondrial DNA. Only one change code from the original source. This sisterhood covenant is so deep and so intense that every woman who is connected to the planet through her mitochondrial DNA, we should be fighting to save the very essence of a life, but not fighting in violence. Do it with love. Love one another. Fight the urge to be mean to someone. Fight the urge to be slanderous to someone. Fight the urge to gossip. Fight all those horrible things we do and start doing the positive things for one another. Compliment your sister. Share in her sadness. Let her cry and hold her. Help her with her children. Help her with her home. Help her when she's happy. Help her when she's sad. There is no reason not to be a sister. There's no excuse for this. Because you are the life givers. And you are all connected to one source, and you are all powerful. Apart and together, you're more powerful. But until you start understanding that you are part of a sisterhood covenant, that is the only treaty that can exist, and that only you can make that transformation. You can get the information, but it's up to you to do it. No one else can do it for you.
I have a question now that you're talking about Treaties. They have the 2 Wampum Belt Treaties. That's being thrown about. How does that play into this?
Wampum Belt Treaties were a treaty between groups, okay? And everything was always based. There's the Eagle Bowl Wampum Belt Treaty, okay? The Eagle Bowl Wampum Belt Treaty is equivalent. It's the Red Nation that created that treaty, equivalent to the Eye of Isis Treaty. In other words, there are several treaties on the planet that Meredith Quinn talked about that were all tied to the Isis Treaty. These were the different sisterhood covenants tying themselves to the sisterhood covenant with Isis, the ancient knowledge, okay? Because you have to understand, for the most part, Rh negative is in the Caucasian race, okay, for the most part. There is about 1% in the Red Nations, 1% in the Asian, and 3% in the African, okay, as far as Rh negative blood goes. They were all given covenants. There were a lot more. They've been murdered, okay? Now you're down to a small percentage in the other Genesis projects and a higher percentage in the Caucasian project. They knew about the Sisterhood Covenant. When Rome surrendered back in 408 AD, they surrendered to the Sisterhood Covenant. Okay? Yes, there were dragon chiefs there because they were the ones protecting the women. But the clan mother called upon all that is, and the ancestors, the star ancestors showed up, and they were in spaceships right over all of Rome. They were out there like a battlefield, and the spaceships were there with fire coming out the rear, scared the living daylights out of these Romans. They had never heard or seen this. These were people, these were slaves that were consumed by a big war machine, by a group of people who were usurping the bloodlines and wanting to take over the planet because they know the only way they can hold on to this planet is through an inheritance. But they also know that everybody else has the same inheritance, and they want to be better than everybody else, right? My belief politics and all this other garb that goes with it is them taking control of the population, keeping them at a perpetual phase of hormonal growth, meaning from junior high to high school. What goes on in junior high to high school? People backstab, slander, gossip, all that crap. It's all they do. They keep everybody at that junior high, high school hormonal level so that you can never mature and think past it and stop the craziness that's happening. And then they run around with their political garb and everybody believes it. It's all based and staged on a junior high, high school mentality. Instead of getting to the real problems. You know, what's really funny is that they can no longer go through elections anymore, because what we've set forward holds Obama as a trustee to the trust. He can't leave office. No one can take his place. Yeah, is Mitt Romney a trustee? Hell yeah. The position he's standing in, you're darn right he's a constructive trustee. And all that money that he thinks he has, well, guess what? It's got to go back to the center of the nation's hoop, Mitt, because you've got no more than anybody else. It's all smoke and mirrors. It's all BS. It's not real. And they know it, and they have the trust, so they know it. Hillary Clinton got it. I personally made sure she got the trust and the court order and my affidavit.